Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into an incredible ingredient that silently powers the entire global food service industry. When you sit down at a luxury hotel banquet, or eat an in-flight meal on a major airline, or visit a high-end restaurant, you expect absolute perfection on your plate, right? But how do these massive commercial kitchens achieve that flawless consistency, literally millions of times a day all over the world? Well, their secret weapon is an agricultural marvel known as 1121 Golden Sella Basmati Rice. We're going to break down exactly what this is, how it's made, and why procurement teams everywhere trust it completely with their supply chains.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. First, we'll cover the commercial kitchen standard. 2, decoding 1121 Golden Sella. 3, the controlled production process. 4, yield, quality, and specs. And 5, global markets and certifications. So, kicking things off with Section 1, the commercial kitchen standard. Think about this for a second. Scaling identical quality across global commercial kitchens is a massive and honestly mostly invisible challenge. Cooking a single cup of rice at home? Piece of cake. But cooking thousands of pounds of it, keeping it warm for hours in a buffet, and making sure not a single grain gets mushy, that is a whole different ballgame. That's exactly why global kitchens choose this one specific rice. Whether it's a luxury fine dining spot, a military kitchen, a massive hospital cafeteria, or an airline caterer, chefs absolutely need identical cooking performance across every single batch. They need total reliability. We really see a massive divide in how rice is purchased. Household consumers, we usually just focus on the upfront price, grabbing whatever happens to be on sale at the grocery store. But commercial food service buyers evaluate this entirely differently. They're calculating the cost per cooked serving. They obsess over yield, like how much does the rice actually expand? They measure holding performance, how well the rice survives sitting in a commercial meal warmer without turning into a clumpy, sticky mess. For B2B buyers, operational efficiency is the true metric of value here. Moving right along to Section 2, decoding 1121 Golden Sella. Let's separate the raw numbers from the marketing jargon, starting with 1121. It turns out 1121 is not some fancy brand name. It's a very specific premium agricultural cultivar. It belongs to the Basmati family and is grown mainly in the incredibly fertile soils of the Punjab region across Pakistan and northern India, right along the Indus River. And here's what makes the 1121 seed so special: its exceptional length. Even raw, a premium grain measures between 8.2 and 8.5 millimeters. That makes it one of the longest naturally occurring basmati grains you can find in international trade. So if 1121 is the seed, Golden Sella is simply the processing technique. It's a highly specific parboiling process. The paddy rice, while it's still inside its protective husk, is soaked, steamed, and dried. This process literally hardens the internal structure of the grain and allows it to absorb nutrients straight from the bran layer. And this is exactly where the rice develops that beautiful natural golden hue. So it's not a different plant at all. It's just a brilliant method of strengthening the 1121 grain. Now, wrapping your head around this number is crazy: 22 millimeters. Because of those 1121 genetics, paired with the Golden Sella process, these grains undergo a massive transformation. When they're properly cooked, they expand from that raw 8.5 millimeters to an astounding 17 to 22 millimeters in length. This massive elongation is absolutely why commercial buyers love it. You get incredible plate coverage, gorgeous presentation, and really high serving yields. All right, we need to tackle a super persistent industry myth head on. You might hear people claim that a darker golden color guarantees better quality rice. That is simply false. No way. The color intensity varies based entirely on the specific processing conditions during parboiling, not the inherent quality of the grain itself. True quality is always based on measurable specifications, not just looks. Which brings us to Section 3, the controlled production process. Getting this rice up to a uniform commercial standard takes a rigorous 125 to 140-day agricultural journey, followed by a very intense wet processing phase. First up, mechanical cleaners remove all the field impurities. We're talking stones, straw, dust, the whole shebang. Second, the grain is soaked in temperature-controlled water so it absorbs moisture perfectly evenly. Third comes the absolute crucial step: steaming under pressure. This steam actually gelatinizes the starch right inside the husk, which drastically strengthens the grain structure so it doesn't break during those heavy commercial cooking sessions. Finally, industrial dryers gradually bring the moisture down to a super stable 12 to 13%. After drying, we jump into the dry finishing steps. The rice is milled to take off the husk and then polished to meet what the market expects. Then comes some seriously incredible technology, optical color sorting, often called Sortex machines. These visually scan the rice as it falls and literally shoot out any black, chalky, or defective kernels with a puff of air. Length graders then separate the whole grains from the broken ones to ensure total uniformity. Finally, it's packed into commercial bags, usually anywhere from 1 to 50 kilograms. This strict, controlled sequence is exactly how recipe standardization is guaranteed. Let's get into the hard data in Section 4, Yield, Quality, and Specs.
Let's pivot to the actual numbers B2B buyers are obsessing over before they sign a contract with a supplier. Premium export contracts demand raw grain lengths exceeding 8.2 millimeters. The moisture content absolutely must be strictly between 12 and 13%. Why? Because anything higher risks spoiling during warehouse storage, while anything lower makes the grain way too brittle. Broken percentage limits are also heavily negotiated, usually capped at 1, 2, 5, or 10% depending on the buyer's budget, mostly because broken grains directly ruin the final buffet appearance. And of course, varietal purity ensures they are getting authentic 1121, not some cheaper substitute blended in. These specific parameters aren't just arbitrary numbers on a spreadsheet. They are the backbone of massive food service applications. Luxury hotels, airline catering kitchens, hospitals, military bases, and large-scale event caterers absolutely rely on these specs. Because the Golden Sella process hardens the grain, this rice can take a beating in massive, heavy commercial cookers. It can sit in a warming tray for an entire dinner service and maintain perfect separation without turning into a sticky paste. For a chef, it's literally an operational lifesaver.
And finally, wrapping up with Section 5, Global Markets and Certifications.
Because demand is just so massive, exporting this rice requires building immense trust across international borders. The Middle East, places like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Qatar, is one of the largest importing regions, but the demand truly spans the globe. We're talking expanding markets in Africa, like South Africa and Kenya, ethnic retail and hospitality sectors in Europe and North America, all the way over to specialty markets in Asia. Retail distributors and hospitality companies across multiple continents are driving huge export volumes because they all value that premium presentation and aromatic profile.
But, you can't just ship thousands of tons of food across the world without a mountain of heavy auditing. Just think about the sheer amount of critical acronyms and certificates involved here. Exporters have to maintain ISO 22000 for food safety management and HACCP for preventative controls. Every single shipment needs phytosanitary and fumigation certificates to prove pest control and plant health compliance, plus certificates of origin and health certificates for customs. Choosing 1121 Golden Sella from a certified supplier isn't just a culinary choice. It is a deeply validated, heavily audited, and super safe business decision.
It ultimately all boils down to this core philosophy. Evaluate rice accurately using measurable quality characteristics instead of assumptions and marketing claims. True commercial quality isn't built on a pretty label or some myth about color. It's built on objective, hard data, length, moisture, purity, and process. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. The next time you sit down at a high-end banquet or peel back the foil on an in-flight meal, ask yourself, are you just eating a side dish, or are you tasting a highly engineered, globally audited operational marvel?